Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network. Any opinions or comments made by any guest are their own, and they do not necessarily reflect any of the presenters or network's opinions.
You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas.
It hasn't changed in millions of years. But here we have a clue to an answer.
Good day to you. This is Sir Patrick Moore, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK radio network, the UK's biggest paranormal radio network, and this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young.
Hello and welcome to the show. Thank you for that introduction, Sir Patrick. I hope everyone's doing well out there in this troubled world. This week's guest is going to be Maria Wheatley. I'll say more about that shortly. As always, if you'd like to get in touch with me at any time, my email address is davidyoung2qn@yahoo.co.uk. That's davidyoung, 2qn, it's all one word, @yahoo.co.uk. Among the messages I've received, I've had a couple more requests to play my friend Preston Williams' Homage to Chief Seattle track again. I've played it a few times before. It was quite a few shows ago now that I played it the last time. So as today is another show which is going to be very much about the land and spiritualism, I think it's quite an appropriate track to play again, and I'm sure you'll like it if you haven't heard it before. If you've heard it before, I'm sure you'll like to hear it again.
The great chief in Washington sends word that he wishes to buy our land. The great chief also sends us words of friendship and goodwill. This is kind of him, since we know he has little need of our friendship in return. But we will consider your offer, for we know that if we do not sell, the white men may come with guns and take our land. How can you buy or sell the sky, the warmth of the land? The idea is strange to us. If we do not own the freshness of the air and the sparkle of the water, how can you buy them? Every part of this earth is sacred to my people. Every shining pine needle, every sandy shore, every mist in the dark woods, every clearing and every humming insect is holy in the memory and experience of my people. The sap which courses through the trees carries the memories of the red man. So when the great chief in Washington sends word that he wishes to buy our land, he asks much of us. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons of the earth. Man did not weave the web of life, he is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. But we will consider your offer to go to the reservation you have for my people. We will live apart and in peace. It matters little where we spend the rest of our days. Our children have seen their fathers humbled in defeat, our warriors who felt shame, and after defeat they turn their days in idleness and contaminate their bodies with sweet foods and strong drinks. It matters little where we spend the rest of our days. They are not many. A few more hours, a few more winters, and none of the great tribes that once lived on this earth or that now roam in small bands in the woods will be left to mourn the graves of a people once as powerful and hopeful as yours. But why should I mourn the passing of my people? Tribes are made of men, nothing more. Men come and go like the waves of the sea. Even the white man whose God walks and talks with him as friend to friend cannot be exempt from the common destiny. One thing we know which the white man may one day discover: our God is the same God. You may think now that you own him as you wish to own our land, but you cannot. He is the God of man, and his compassion is equal for the red man and the white. This earth is precious to him, and to harm the earth is to heap contempt on its creator. The whites too shall pass, perhaps sooner than all other tribes. Continue to contaminate your bed, and you will one night suffocate in your own waste. But in your perishing you will shine brightly, fired by the strength of the God who brought you to this land and for some special purpose gave you dominion over this land and over the red man. That destiny is a mystery to us, for we do not understand when the buffalo are all slaughtered, the wild horses are tamed, and the view of the ripe hills blooded by talking wires. Where is the thicket? Gone. Where is the eagle? Gone. And what is it to say goodbye to the swift pony and the hunt, the end of living and the beginning of survival? So we will consider your offer to buy the land. If we agree, it will be to secure the reservation you have promised. There perhaps we may live out our brief days as we wish. When the last red man has vanished from this earth, and his memory is only the shadow of a cloud moving across the prairie, these shores and forests will still hold the spirits of my people. For they love this earth as a newborn loves its mother's heartbeat. So, if we sell our land, love it as we've loved it. Care for it as we've cared for it. Hold in your mind the memory of the land as it is when you take it. And with all your strength, with all your mind, with all your heart, preserve it for your children and love it, as God loves us all. One thing we know, our God is the same God. This earth is precious to him. Even the white man cannot be exempt from the common destiny. We may be brothers after all. We shall see.
Yeah, that's Preston Williams. Thank you, Preston. That's a great track. Okay. Today's guest is Maria Wheatley. Now, Maria is an author and tutor, and she's been teaching past life regressions, reflexology, tarot, and dowsing for Swindon College and the British School of Yoga. Her late father, Dennis Wheatley, was a master dowser who was considered a world authority on the geodetic system of earth energies. He taught Maria to dowse over 20 years ago. Maria loves the world of the paranormal and felt inspired to write about the mystical stones of Avebury, and that's Wiltshire, in the UK here. Maria also gives regular dowsing tours and workshops at sacred sites such as Avebury, Stonehenge, Glastonbury, Uffington, Ireland and Scotland. Maria runs professional dowsing courses to certified level, practical weekend courses, one-day workshops, home study on Skype. Lessons are available. Maria runs the Avebury School of Esoteric Studies, which is affiliated with the Association of British Correspondence Colleges. Okay, right. I'd like to bring on and introduce Maria Wheatley. Hello, Maria. Welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Well, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, so am I. It's actually great to have you on the show. I've been looking forward to this one. I've known about your name for years, in actual fact, and it's the first opportunity I've had to really talk to you. And I've sort of followed your career, if you'd like to call it that. I don't know how deep I've followed it, but I know you're a very interesting person concerning ancient rituals and crop circles and everything else to do with ley lines and everything like that. I mean, what got you into that? What made you interested in it?
Yeah, that's a really good starter question, actually, David. And really, it was because I've always lived around the Wiltshire area. I've lived in different countries, with my family, but we've always come back to Wiltshire, so it's always like home. So I've always been quite close to Avebury and Stonehenge, and my late father was a dowser. He liked ancient sites, and so did, my family as well. And we lived quite close to Avebury. And I don't know if you can remember the show, David. It was, when I was a kid, it was called The Children of the Stones, and it was all about Avebury.
I faintly remember something like that. I'm not actually sure if I saw any, but I do remember the name of it, yeah.
It was great as a kid, sort of, in the 70s watching that. And of course, then my parents used to take us to Avebury. So it was like kind of being a part of a TV show. And then, obviously as I got older, I got interested into the kind of metaphysical side of Avebury and the physical side, like the archaeology of Avebury as well. I'm quite, well read on. But it was combining the both and trying to find out, a bit like yourself, you're probably interested into mysteries. What is a ley line? What is the earth doing, and what were the ancients up to? And it was asking all those sort of questions really that wanted answers to these questions. And but that said, years later, David, I've answered a few questions, but more have arisen.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm still not 100. Well, I really don't know what I understand what ley lines are. That they are connections throughout the country. But do we really know what ley lines are? If it's, you probably do.
Well, there's many different types. I mean, it's a kind of generic word, really, because you can get one type of ley line, and this was really explored many years ago, decades ago now, by a dowser called Sig Longren, and he classified them after a lot of study, and there was a topographical ley, which is just a line, has no energy, linking site after site in a straight line. And it was Alfred Watkins back in the 1930s that coined the phrase ley and really discovered the leys, and other people looked into them. So you can have that type of ley, just a straight line with ancient sites cited upon it. Then there's another type of ley that has energy that dowsers can pick up on, and we've tried, with Rodney Hale, we've tried to kind of get the hertz frequency of some leys. On the earth currents we were quite successful with. That's about 25 hertz. And you get some leys that are orientated to a celestial event. Be that the Beltane sunrise, May the 1st, like the famous St. Michael ley, that John Michel wrote about in the 1960s. And then you get a ley system, and that's where you have a ley line that has energy flowing through it, and two earth currents entwine it like the caduceus symbol or a strand of DNA. So they're really powerful, the ley systems, and they were discovered in the 1980s, and they've kind of been quite well documented now. So that's kind of ley lines in a nutshell. They can be different things, but the most powerful is a ley system with two entwining earth currents.
See, that's what I mean. It's very hard for me to. I mean, when these ley lines were put down, if you like, things were joined together by the ancients. Did they actually? They must have known what they were doing.
Exactly. They were excellent surveyors. I mean, that's the first thing that we need to think about, David, because, when you get the famous St. Michael ley, it goes from Carnarvon in Cornwall to Hopton on the Norfolk coast. And it goes through Glastonbury and has its centre Avebury Henge. But, I mean, you've got hill ranges in the way. How can you engineer that straight line going across 300 miles across the, English countryside?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, you look at a map and it's a flat piece of paper. And what you're saying is exactly right. I mean, they've got to go over hills and sometimes even small mountains, haven't they, in some cases?
Absolutely. So it's easy to kind of draw a ley on a piece of paper, like you were saying, it's a 2D flat surface. But in reality, okay, I could easily find a ley on an atlas or on a map, okay? put me in the countryside and say, okay, now Maria, you have to give that line and align it to a celestial event. That's topographical engineering, and that's where, I think the ancients were master geomancers and astronomers, because a lot of the lays are orientated to a lunar or solar event.
Exactly. I understand you've just done a show also on Gaia TV, which I saw on Facebook today that you posted. I guess you were talking all about all this type of thing on there, were you?
Yes, and when talking about the sort of, megaliths that give off energy and some of the site's alignments and some global lines that they were talking about. So, yes, I think really the general public has a real thirst for ancient knowledge and ancient civilizations. Again, it's looking back to how did they move the stones? How did they put the stones up? Why did they do that? These questions are simple, but they've never really been fully addressed by the archaeological community, because the archaeologists would tell us, it's all about death. It could be the King's Chamber in the pyramids, it could be Stonehenge, it could be anywhere. And it's all about death rituals. And it's all the same date, 2500 BC. And that it's a kind of sweeping statement, and I think there's far, far more going on. I think they were tapping into the Earth energy system, a natural system, and you have people like, in the past, Nikola Tesla, he was looking into free energy and by using the Earth, not having any wires, and that's been widely documented. So I think the ancients could tap into some kind of resource that's in the Earth energy, that we're kind of just beginning to re-understand and re-remember.
Now, we're talking about the ancients here. Now, are you talking about aliens, ancient aliens at all?
I think, whether man got seeded many years ago by aliens, that is a probability. I don't dismiss anything. But for me, the ancients are the ancient British people whose DNA has been studied, the Neolithic that built the long barrows and the Bronze Age people that built the stone circles. And I think that they were an ancient long-lost civilization. But that's not to say that something could have occurred. I think that could be a strong possibility.
Yeah. I fully believe that there were like UFOs way back, and I do believe in the ancient alien theory. They must have had some sort of technology that guided them into these straight lines. That's the only way I can think of it. But what are your thoughts on that, really?
Well, I think there's a strong possibility that mankind was seeded many, 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 many millennia ago. But I also think there's been lost civilizations, like Atlantis, when there was that kind of big event 12,000 years ago when the ice caps were melted, the sea levels rose, the Younger Dryas, as it's called by many. I think there was lots of civilizations lost. So I don't think it was just Atlantis. And then I think a new kind of culture came about to build monuments. So I think we have a long, long, long history that hasn't been explored by academics.
No. I can remember being at school, but they never mentioned anything about ley lines or the power of the earth or anything like that. Obviously, they taught you about Stonehenge and things, and that they were lifted with ropes and sticks and stones and things, But I find that kind of hard to believe. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, when we have a look to how Professor Richard Atkinson tried to move a small blue stone, not a heavy sarsen stone, one of the smaller blue stones, probably weighing about 4 tons, between 4 and 5 tons, whereas, the greater trilithon in total of those 3 stones is 95 tons. And they put the ropes around it, and they put the rollers underneath, and he chose very public school boys, so it was all very nice. It was all very nicely done. And they couldn't move it that far.
Yeah.
So, when you look to other places as well, David, you can really rule out moving it on rollers rather, because Callaniche doesn't have any trees. And that's got large stone circles. So, I think you can literally rule some things out and say, how did they move the stones? And it probably wasn't by ropes, and it probably wasn't by rollers.
Yeah, because I find that same problem with the pyramids, because obviously the size of those pyramids and the size of the stones building the pyramids, and of course when you're trying to pull those stones up the side of a pyramid, they get heavier physically because of the height and physics and everything combined into it. So I can't see how they did it. And also the design of the pyramids with the passageways and everything. I can only see that they must have had some sort of alien intelligence or ancient intelligence, like you say. That's the only way I can look at it myself. I just cannot see that it was done by ropes and pulleys, especially in that sandy area, and also they had no trees.
Yeah, it is a marvel, and especially I've been into the Great Pyramid a few times now, and the subterranean chamber is about 1,000 feet beneath the pyramid, positioned and aligned, and we know it aligns to certain particular stars. And the whole complex aligns to the Orion's belt, according to Robert Breval and Graham Hancock's research. So, I mean, again, it's not just one discipline that was involved. It was several very highly skilled disciplines to make one monument, whether that was the pyramids or whether that was Stonehenge.
I mean, I have heard a theory of levitation. I don't know what your views on that.
Well, when we've measured the Hertz frequency of particular earth currents, which is called a female earth current coined Mary by Hamish Miller and Paul Broadhurst in the 1980s, which entwines with the Michael earth current, the St. Michael ley line, the ley system that I was talking about earlier. When we measured that, it came out at 25 Hertz. Was quite a strong signal coming out of the ground, and we put in deep copper probes to get that. You couldn't do that today at a World Heritage Site. We did that some years ago. You get slung out. But it was back in the day that we did that, but nonetheless it was good research. And I remember being on a radio show with Dr. Sam that looks into the Bosnian pyramids, and he said 25 kilohertz was the Hertz frequency of levitation. And I wonder if the ancients could have manipulated the earth currents to a kilohertz rather than a Hertz frequency and used that to help lift the stones, because wherever you get ancient sites, you get earth currents. And if these earth currents have a predominant signal of 25 Hertz that was potentially manipulated, then you do have levitation, or the possibility to levitate stones. And I think that's plausible.
Yeah, I do too. Another thing that interests me is you do a lot of regression as well, don't you?
Yes, I do. I do past life regression, and I've done that since about 1996. So I've got some, good experience in that. And it's a really good spiritual tool, past life regression, because it's not just about, finding out about a life that you lived before this one, but it can be quite healing as well. You can tap into your soul for healing and tap into your soul to answer some questions. Why did I meet X? Why did this happen to me? And when you're in a kind of really relaxed state and you're in a regress state, then the answers to these questions can come from the soul. So it's kind of more than a regression. And also, Dolores Cannon, I was her guide for some time. She was the late Dolores Cannon. Very famous in America, lovely lady. And she also used to do past life regression, quantum healing as she called it, QHHT, but also forward life progression. So that after a past life regression, you can choose 1, 3, 5 years ahead, to try and figure out what it is you want, where you want to be in that time, and try to manifest that as well. And that was one of her techniques, and a few of my clients have found that quite beneficial.
I do have a couple of her books on my shelf, actually. So
they're great, and she was a very good author, and like I said, she was also a very lovely lady, a very nice person.
Yeah. One I've got The Search for Hidden Sacred Knowledge and Between Death and Life, Conversation with Spirit.
Yes.
So what would have been your most interesting cases of experienced with past life experiences?
Well, most of them do have some kind of interesting story to tell, but the ones that intrigue me the most, I suppose, are the ones that deal with ancient sites, because that's another love of mine. And if you combine them both, then it's very interesting. And recently I had a case from a chap in America. Obviously, I'm not going to name names.
No, of course not.
It's confidential, you understand that. But anyway, really nice chap, lives in America, has been to England twice, but not to this part of the country. So yes, he has been into England, and yes, he has been around some ancient sites. But in this kind of regressed state, he was describing a very, very tall stone, and it wasn't around Stonehenge. Well, I know the megaliths of this land, predominantly. And I thought, well, the tallest standing stone is the red stone monolith in Yorkshire. That's the tallest. It outstands even the great Trilithon of Stonehenge. And he was describing the area and how it became Christianized. And I thought, yep, that's the churchyard, so I kind of know where he is. And he's always suffered from headaches, and he had a bit of a bad, challenging relationship with his father in this lifetime. And the past life regression led to him having a long skull, and I discovered the long-skulled people of Stonehenge. And what he had was a long skull, and it being kind of causing him a few problems because he'd been beaten. And when we did some healing in the healing room, which we kind of set up in the consultation and during the process of regression, he felt his skull being really long, and then he felt all of the headaches going and hasn't suffered from headaches since.
Wow.
So I felt that was really a very good regression because it really did help him.
I went for a regression session once, and I found I couldn't be hypnotised, if that's the right term. I found I could only go a certain way, and I was sort of pulling myself back. Do you find that people get hypnotised easily, or...?
So some people very easily, some people, probably like yourself and me. I mean, I'm not the best to be hypnotised either, actually. I think it really does depend, on what the personality's like. So, some people I find really easy, and others I do find, more challenging to start even to relax. To have that trust as well. And sometimes I think it's about a trust thing between the actual therapist and the client. I think if there's a really good bond between the two, and there's a kind of trust, sense of security, then I think it does make the regression slightly easier.
Yeah, I think that could be the case with me, because it was basically turning up at a stranger's house. And expecting to be sort of hypnotised and go into a past life when it's someone you don't even know. Maybe it was someone you'd met a few times and sort of got some sort of a understanding and a bond, like you say. Maybe that makes a difference.
I think it is about having a trust in, like I said, and having the kind of ability to say, okay, I can let go because I trust you. Yeah. And that's the thing. And that was the gift of Dolores, in a way, because everybody really kind of, I feel, really trusted her, really respected her. She was very well known. So, and she found that she could regress most people quite easily. But I think that was because she had something special that people could sense. It was, you couldn't just put anybody in that position. They wouldn't be as successful as what she was.
Yeah, I mean, I can only go on my own instance. I got to a point where she was saying about opening doors and going down the pathway, and I got to a point am I making, because I was coming out with comments and things, but I kind of thought, am I actually making this up, or is it actual true memories?
There are signs of being in a regressed state, okay? So a regression therapist will start looking out for that. So what are those? You notice when somebody comes into the room that they will have a particular colour around maybe their nose, their cheeks. You have colour, or you don't have colour. You can be pale. So the regression therapist looks at the pallor of your skin, because in a regressed state, that will change. If you're pale, you might become a bit redder, and if you've got red bits, they might go pale or become redder. Oh, right. The other sign is an unconscious reaction. And an unconscious reaction means when you start to gulp. You can't, like you're in an interview and you really don't want to gulp, but you gulp. It's an unconscious part where your body's starting to relax and the unconscious is taking over. So if you've done a few gulps, then you are actually relaxing. And also your stomach might start to churn, because your body is relaxing. The other sign of being in a regressed state is the regression therapist will look out for your feet slightly twitching or your hands twitching, and a little bit of rapid eye movement above the eyelids, as it were. They're all signs that you're going into a relaxed state.
Right. Ah, well, that's something I wouldn't have known about. And let's hope that my therapist did, or if you call him a therapist. But anyway, it wasn't very successful. That's all I can say. Not that I do believe in it, but it's just, I think it was just me. I was a bad subject for it. But,
that's the thing. But once you do get into that really comfortable, relaxed state, then it is surprising, what some people come out with. And sometimes it isn't about past lives. And that intrigues me because, for example, one lady, she was from France, an English person living in France that had come back over to England. And I regressed her. And she was talking about these geometrical wire copper meshes. And she was a gardener by trade in this life. So in the past life regression, she didn't get there exactly to past life, but she came out with all of these different geometrical shapes that she could put over plants to help them to encourage to grow. So so sometimes it is about that, and sometimes in a past life regression it can be to somebody that maybe had passed over in this life. I regressed many years ago now, was describing the Vietnam War. But he was my age, so he couldn't have been in the Vietnam War. And I was talking to some other regression therapists, regarding this at the time, who I didn't than myself. And they also said they noticed that from time to time. It's like you can get a soul memory that's impregnated into the planet is one idea that's being mooted, like the collective unconscious that people are tapping into, because, otherwise that doesn't make any sense.
Let's go back to the ley lines again. Now, we were talking about ley lines across Britain, and we've sort of kindly mentioned about there's ley lines that actually some of our ley lines actually match up with the pyramids, don't they? They go right through the middle of the pyramids, and also other places in the world. Now, how would that come about unless they had some sort of I'd say alien knowledge? Do you feel that maybe there were civilizations and it's been destroyed and so many thousands of years ago, and maybe a nuclear disaster or something?
It could well be, because when you look to some of the Indian scriptures, they do describe a kind of nuclear event. But one event that Brian Forrester and Dr. Robert Schoch speak of in their research with ancient sites is that about 12,000 years ago, when the ice melted, that was according to Dr. Robert Schoch, because there was a solar plasma event where the sun kind of spewed out, if you will, all of this energy. And they look at some ancient sites in Peru and in Egypt where it looks like there've been such heat, such immense heat, it's like turned stone into glass. So they think there was that big event that happened at the time, and that the ancient sites like the pyramids, like places like Palenque in Mexico and, Bolivia and other places besides, are much, much older than what we've been told from the pyramids being 2,500 BC, Palenque being 8 AD, etc., Stonehenge being phase 1, 3000 BC. So they're putting the whole timeline back much, much further and saying that then what happened is that the sites got taken over by a new civilization. So it was the pharaohs of Egypt that took over the existing pyramids. They didn't build them. They kind of put their mark on them, like at Karnak and Luxor, Ramesses the Great. It's a bit like me going along and put Maria was here, 1979. That's what happened according to some of their theories. And I think that, again, that is probably correct. I think that the sites are indeed much older than what we've been led to believe by the archaeological, very poor radiocarbon dating scheme.
And also, we must get into the subject of, was elevation used? I see that myself, but I don't know what your view is on that.
Well, yeah, like I say, I think if you've got the right kind of earth currents, I think, and some people say sound technology can help move things, which is, again, has been explored. So I think a combination of different happenings and the utilizing the earth, and yes, I think you could levitate things. I mean, and people know that is possible. And even that Russian boxer that I can't think of his name, he just won a fight recently. He claims, he's a Russian, he claims he can levitate. That's one of his big things.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm not into boxing, so I can't help you there.
No, I heard it on the radio in passing, actually. Not that, I'm into sport at all, actually.
No.
But yes, but my point is, some people claim that. And another person I know that was above the crossing point of two earth energies and a massive spiral earth energy that's very strong at the sanctuary, which is an ancient site associated to Avebury Henge in Wiltshire, which is the world's largest stone circle. Then at Samhain, he claimed that he levitated above that central point, and he was off the ground for about sort of like 6 to 7 inches, and he's a big guy to levitate. So there is a force in the earth. There's a force in the earth that can come out of the ground and can push up at certain times of the year. So I think the placement of the sun plays a big role if levitation was used rather, and the moon alike. I think they were really good astronomers, knew when the energies were really strong, because it's not always just the new and the full moon. It can be 6 or 7 days, which is more corresponding to the quarter days for underground water releasing electromagnetic pulses. Then you have what's called earth voltages. They come out of the ground and they can be measured. It's all energy at the end of the day.
Right, now I've got a question here. Now, your late father was Dennis Wheatley, he was a master dowser. Now, I've got to ask a question. Dennis Wheatley was a well-known writer. Was that in your family? I don't suppose that was your father, but I'm saying about, is it the same Dennis Wheatley that's in your family or not?
In the family, but not my father, no.
No, but it was actually in your family, the well-known paranormal writer.
Yes, but like I say, not the dowser, as it were.
A few years further than your father would have been, I think.
Yeah, there would have been a big age difference, put it like, to have a daughter, as it were.
No, I just wondered if it might have been his father or something.
No, it's a relative, but more like a second cousin in the family. But all of my family, or my immediate family, are very interested in the paranormal. You know, they all are. And because we used to live in the 70s in a very a house that was quite old. I mean, it was an old kind of farmhouse that had poltergeist activity from the get-go. Yeah.
Interesting.
So that was from about the age of 8 or 9 that I experienced, you know, poltergeist activity. But as a kid, I wasn't really very frightened of that at all. In fact, when we had a big chest, the kind of like a big pine, you know, where you put plates on, dresser, and it used to get moved, and you could see it move because the indentation in the carpet would move. And my brother and I used to try and run to beat the poltergeist to move the furniture. And I suppose that led me on many years later to do things like house clearing. You know, I do a lot of house healing and house clearing because I think that everything has a story. And if you get to the story of what happened in that house or what occurred or what went on, as it were, then you do get a lot of kind of healing, and the events will stop and they will pass.
Now, I just had to ask that question because I thought it can't be just a coincidence that name Dennis Wheatley. But because I actually sort of was reading those probably in the 60s, a lot of the Dennis Wheatley books. But I just had to ask that question. I hope you excuse that.
Yeah, that's fine. Ask any question that you like.
No, that's all right. I know one of your researching of the book, you were followed by just around the stone circles by a spirit who guided you to rediscover a long lost solar alignment.
Yes.
Are you in touch with your spirits? You know, your spirit guides?
Yeah, I think I am actually. You know, sometimes more times than others. To be fair. So sometimes I feel really tuned in and get a lot of information, then another day I might not, you know. So yes, I do. And when I was at Avebury, a spirit definitely followed around and put me and my co-author at that time into the right place to see and figure out the solar alignment. So I think the ancients wanted me there. And I researched it and found out that, you know, that part of the Henge Bank hadn't been built there. It wasn't the original feature and all sort of things like that. But I think the ancients do want to guide us to find out things. I really, really do. And only the other day, about, sort of 2 to 3 weeks ago, I was up on the Downs, researching and walking around some of the round barrows, trying to get in touch with the Bronze Age people, and I found a pre-coinage money ring that was just from the mid-Bronze Age, before, you know, the coins of the Iron Age came in, and I had it, you know, clarified that that's what it was from a curator of a museum. And I wear that round my neck now because I feel close to the ancestors that way. So I really do feel that, you know, they give us signs and encourage us because they want their story to be told, and they want it told their way. And that's what I'm trying to do in my next book, which will be out next year, is telling their story through their sites and through looking at the ancient sites in a different way to how they've been seen before.
Next question. You teach tarot as well.
Yes, I've been teaching tarot now for many, many years, actually. Probably about 25 years now. And the tarot has always, again, it's a great spiritual tool. Like, you know, I was talking about the past life regression. And so I think it's really good. I think it's more than just divining the past, the present and the future. It's about finding out about our spiritual side and about our spiritual heritage and our gifts and what we can do and what we can be inspired by. So for me, the tarot deck is an inspirational spiritual tool that can help us develop and find out what our soul's purpose is, how to develop ourselves more, rather than just saying that happened in the past and this is likely to happen in the future. It's so much more in depth than that.
I find it amazing how much you've taken in over the years. You know, you've learnt tarot, dowsing, you do dowsing tours, you do workshops at sacred sites and everything. I just don't know how you sort of managed to fit all that into your head, you know, because I've tried to learn a bit of tarot and I just cannot sort of let it sink in.
Well, when I was 16, I used to have a little pony, and I used to have to go and feed it in the winter, and there was kind of like a van thing, like a caravan, parked in the lay-by nearby, and it was two travellers. And I used to knock on the door and ask what they were doing, because I found them to be quite intriguing. And they used to just tell me to go away and basically get lost. And after a while, I saw the lady doing the tarot and asked her, you know, what it was about. And she taught me the Song of the Tarot, which is because some travellers then didn't necessarily read books or want to read books, actually. So their heritage was more like learn the whole 10 cards all at once by knowing the story behind it. And then the tarot becomes very easy. Very easy. So that's how I learned. And you can learn the first 10 cards of the cups within a very, very short time because you know the story behind it. So that's how I got taught that at 16. And I can remember when I was about 18 years old, working, that was one of the only straight jobs I really did have, working for the NHS, and all the ladies in the office found out I did tarot, and I ended up doing the boss's tarot reading. But until I left, I just got thoroughly bored and thought, I can't do this.
I imagine going around to all the patients doing their tarot readings.
Yeah, so I think there's easy ways to learn the tarot, and there are the hard way is using your left brain, trying to remember the meanings of the cards randomly by looking at a spread, like they tell you how to do in the little booklets that come along with tarot cards. That is so counter intuitive, and it's, in my humble opinion, it's a waste of time, because I really do feel that the old way of learning like I said, learning the whole 10 cards all at once it's just, honestly, it's so easy. I've got a video, YouTube, if you just put my name, Maria Wheatley, and tarot, that video will come up. It was at a festival many years ago where I'm doing the first 20 cards with the Song of the Tarot.
I'll have to put the link to that on my Paranormal Dimensions page, as I will do for all your books and things as well. So that's another thing that interests me, which I didn't get a chance to go and see when I was in Wiltshire just a few weeks back, was Woodhenge. Can you tell me a bit about what Woodhenge is?
Woodhenge is an integral part of the Stonehenge environs. So you've got Stonehenge, then some distance away you've got Woodhenge, which was a timber structure, which was next door to Durrington Walls. And Durrington Walls also had 2 timber temples and a massive henge surrounding it. And it was also the place where the people that built Stonehenge lived. But Woodhenge lies just outside of that henge monument of Durrington Walls. It contains 6 concentric timber circles going round, and the ones on the inside were really big timbers, and the ones on the outside were a little bit thinner. And it's aligned with a small grave believed to be of a child or a teenager that's in alignment to the midsummer sunrise, like at Stonehenge. And it would have been a place of worship. It would have been a place where people would have gone to probably prior to going down to Woodhenge itself. There are archaeological models saying that all the timber structures represent the land of the living and the stone is immortal, it's the land of the dead. But I think that's too simplistic. I think that Woodhenge has such a different energy to Stonehenge. Stonehenge can be very intense. Okay, when you go on the inside, it's very, very intense. It can give you massive downloads. For some people, it's a little bit too much. They feel quite claustrophobic almost in there. Woodhenge, on the other hand, is aligned on six concentric circles of energy, and it is very powerful but very relaxing. People feel good at Woodhenge. They feel they're relaxed there. They feel it's good energy. So it's got a completely different feel to Stonehenge. And like I said, inside of Durrington Walls complex, you'd have had two more timber circles, but they were aligned the opposite way round to Stonehenge. So one of those timber structures was aligned to the midwinter, not the midsummer that Stonehenge is in alignment to. And it had a very small stone avenue going down to the River Avon. And you find that a lot of the ancient sites, whether that's Avebury or Stanton Drew or Durrington Walls, Durrington Henge Monument, or Stonehenge itself, will have an avenue leading to a river. So surface water played a significant role within the ancient sites.
And the Cursors Monument, what is that?
The Cursors Monument was stood in front of Stonehenge. It was a Neolithic monument that predated the Stonehenge that we're familiar with the linteled circle and the trilithons on the inside. So going back, about 5,500 years ago, imagine that you've still got Stonehenge as a henge monument, a ditch and a bank with a stone circle of 56 blue stones on the inside, and standing in front of that, contemporary with it, or a little bit earlier, was a massive structure nearly 2 miles long, 1.7 miles long, made of chalk brick block, creating a massive enclosure. And nobody knows what that was being used for, why it was built, but it stood there up until about sort of the mid-18th century, because the antiquarian, Dr. William Stukeley, drew it out and showed that it was, a monument in its own right. But what it was used for is a mystery.
Okay. I thought you might give me an amazing answer then, but obviously it's a mystery.
No, I mean, nothing is left of it today to even explore. It's all gone. It got ploughed out. It just remains as a kind of aerial, you can see it from the air in what's called a parch mark. But nobody really knows what it was used for. I mean, there were other Cursors monuments in the area which were 7 miles long, which was in Dorset. And there was Cursors at Heathrow, quite close to Heathrow Airport.
Really?
You had a Cursors monument, and Cursors monuments in Lechlade, and lots of different places besides. They were a Neolithic monument. And again, the only interpretation an archaeologist will give you is that they were the death rites. They were used for funeral processions, which, why would you build a big enclosure just to mourn? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Maybe there was something else going on within that landscape. When we did some tests years ago on the Cursors monument, near the middle, but not exactly at the geometric centre of that monument, but quite close, we got a lot of radiation coming out of the ground. So there could have been something to do with that. Were they harnessing some kind of earth radiation at that point? Were they using it for medicinal purposes? What were they using it for free energy purposes? What was going on there? It's very difficult when you don't have the monument left to try and decode it in full.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that at all. Wiltshire, and also most of the West Country, is very famous for crop circles. Have you ever witnessed any being made? Or I guess the question I'm asking is, what is your opinion of crop circles?
I think quite a few of them are definitely man-made. I know some circle makers for sure.
Yeah, I do too.
So that there are circle makers out there, and then some of the researchers say that the more simple circles are the more genuine ones, and the more, fancier the circles get, the more likely they are to be man-made. I've kind of looked at the crop circles, and I'm quite fascinated by them, but I haven't studied them as much as I've studied stone circles. To give a professional opinion about them. What I did notice this year, the corn is getting a lot shorter than what it was back in the 1990s. I mean, it's not really very tall now. It's only about 2 feet tall because it's been engineered to have a smaller stalk and a much larger head.
Right.
Ear of corn. That's how it's been genetically modified too. And you do get a lot of chemicals on the land now, and it gave me a bit of a rash last time I went into a circle with shorts on.
I mean, have you worked with Colin Andrews? There's also Andrew Collins, so we won't get the two mixed up, but I think they've both sort of been in the area researching different things. Have you met up with either of them?
Yes, I know both of them. Colin Andrews I keep in contact with on social media. He's one of the very early investigators into crop circles, along with Busby Taylor and Pat Delgado, for example. They were, the early pioneers of crop circles. And Andrew Collins, he investigated them, and he's also investigated ancient sites as well, and ancient civilizations.
Yeah, it's easy to get the two of them mixed up, isn't it? Andrew Collins and Colin Andrews.
Yeah. Gets a bit much, doesn't it?
Yeah, I had Andrew Collins on the first show of this year, actually. Show number 100. It was very interesting, actually. Do you know of any that are genuine?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't know personally whether they were. I mean, I listen to people that investigate them more because, like I said, my forte is stone circles and ancient monuments. But people say, oh, this one is genuine because of this reason and that reason. So maybe some are, and some have never been claimed to be made by the circle makers anyway. So who made those if they're not laying claim to them? So I think there are a mixture. It's such a mixture of different types of peoples, different schools of thought with the crop circles. It's difficult to get to the truth these days, and not so many are turning up in the landscape as they used to back in the kind of year 2000 or something. They seem to be less of them these days.
I think the puzzling thing is they do happen elsewhere in the world as well, don't they?
Yes, and Colin Andrews pointed out once that there was a tree circle.
A tree circle? Oh, right.
A tree circle. So, you've got an immense amount of energy to get trees to lay down, like a crop circle. It was a circle, but it was definitely all the trees were laid down in the circle itself.
Wow.
So that's very, very intriguing. And then there's been, ones in paddy fields in Japan. So you're right, they're all over the world.
I mean, how you get trees in a circle, I don't know, because without heavy equipment, and you seal the tyre tracks and everything, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they looked into that. That was one done by Colin, and that was very, very intriguing.
Now, I think your most recent book, was it called Druid School, Star Astrology? Was that your most recent?
Yeah, I had that book, that was printed, published rather, by Dolores Canning's publishing company, Ozark Mountain Publishing. And yeah, it's a different way of looking at your astrology chart. It looks into, because I'm into past life regression, it looks into the past lives of a person by changing the natal chart. That's the kind of circular astrology chart, your horoscope, if you will, your birth chart, into a six-pointed star, which is the symbol of the heart chakra, and any planets that fall into the symbol of the heart chakra represent important past lives that you've lived before this one. So that's what I did, and I got that from an ancient site not far from Stonehenge called the Codford Circle. And I was just not really sort of meditating. I was just walking around the circle thinking that it's a henge monument, and I was wondering if it had standing stones at one time, and, you know, just enjoying the site for what it was. And the views are spectacular from the Codford Circle. It was definitely an astronomical observatory at some point, because you've got 360 degrees of skyline. Nothing impedes with that skyline. And that's when I got the idea and a kind of download all about this ancient Druid astrology, about past lives. And so I wrote a book about it after I'd studied it, did a lot of charts, you know, is this real? Is this true? Will it work out okay? And I was doing people's lives, and people were resonating with it and said, oh, I got that in a regression. I got that resonates with me. And so it does resonate with a lot of people, and it's quite popular. And I'm working on some software with a friend of mine to sell pretty soon, where you can figure out your own chart just by putting in a few birth details and the latitude and the longitude of where you live, and then your chart will transform from the normal astrology chart to your soul star chart.
All right. Now, when you say you get a download, what does that actually mean? Do you mean things pour into your head, or does it come down in ones and zeros, or?
Not ones and zeros. I'm not very techno-minded out there. They'd be lost on me. No, just like with a kind of vision or a sense of something is happening, and, you know, why did the planets mean that? And it was a whole load of kind of information. It took a while to process. Actually, and I also did a lot of research into that as well. You know, what did the ancients think about these sites? What countries did they associate with the sun? So I did a lot of research as well, but the initial core of it was what that ancient site inspired me, and I believe in myself. It was my Druid guide that was telling me about something that he did in a previous existence, and he was handing that information on to me. That's how I feel about it.
It certainly seems as if you were chosen to be doing what you're doing. I don't know if you follow David Icke at all, but he had a similar type of download himself, like an awakening, didn't he?
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And apparently that's where he gets all his, because Moe churns books out every year. It's amazing. And he says he couldn't do it without the download that he got originally. You know, it's he says it amazes him where his information comes from.
Yes.
You know, and the way he can sort of stand there and talk for like 10 hours. You know.
I know. I mean, he is very phenomenal in that sense. But then, you know, he wants to change the world, doesn't he? He wants a different way of living. He wants a different way of people's politics. So, yeah, he's quite something.
Yeah, very interesting, I must say. Have you got a title for your new book that you're writing?
Yeah, it's The Secret History of Stonehenge.
The Secret right, okay.
History of Stonehenge, but it's going to be about other sites as well.
Yeah.
But the core of it is about Stonehenge and the elongated skulled people that were there, and how they used the monument and what particular stones were used for what particular purpose. And I also have reconstructed Stonehenge, because I don't think the archaeologists have got the correct model. I think if you get some of the long lost stones, then Stonehenge is not what we've been spoon-fed that it looks like. So I offer a different look of Stonehenge and a different purpose of Stonehenge as well. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. And like I say, it should be out next year. Really looking forward to launching that book. I think it will be very controversial.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I shall keep an eye out for that one. But I will actually put, I've got like a list of your books here. I will actually put a list on the Paranormal Dimensions page. And so if anyone's interested in following up on your books, which are very interesting, I must say, obviously, especially if you're interested in Stonehenge and the West Country in general. But it's been fantastic talking to you, Maria. Thank you so much for finding the time to come on.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been really good. Thanks for having me.
And perhaps when your book comes out next year, I'll probably get to the West Country again next year, and perhaps I'll drop by and you can sign it for me.
Certainly will.
But good luck in your future ventures and everything. Now, you've got a website, and also you've got aveburyexperience.co.uk.
Yes.
You've got an email address which is mariawheatley@aol.com. What other links have I got here? And
esotericcollege.com. That's my teaching platform, esotericcollege.com.
Right, okay. So if anyone wants to get in touch with Maria, and I'll put some links on the Paranormal Dimensions page, as I said. And it's been great talking to you, Maria. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you very much, David. Have a good evening.
And you. Thank you, Maria. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And there we are, another wonderful guest, Maria Wheatley. Thank you again, Maria. Right, you've been listening to Paranormal Dimensions on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I'm David Young. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll join me again next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
It's great. I mean, to be honest, David, it's been great listening to your shows over the past couple of years, and then, you know, obviously, and the stuff that we're both into from the conspiracy side of things as well. It's you were one of the first English-based, shall we say, podcasts that I really kind of started listening to on a religious basis, really.
Yeah, that's nice of you to say.
Paranormal Dimensions is as bright and powerful as our celestial star, the sun. And although it's expending thousands of pounds of energy every minute of the day, have no fear. There's plenty left.
Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.
They're laughing at you. They're not laughing with you. It's fine.
I remember my daughter Kerry saying to me, you know, Dad, one day I'm going to be able to walk down Union Street and I'm going to be able to say, my dad's not mad. Look at what he said. Look at what is happening. He was right.
Oh, get out of here! 30 years, thank God! Thank God I've never seen you on Mogan when I was like a teenager, and I thought, oh my God, I said that man, even then.
Oh, thank you.
So, and now, thank God, thank God.
You've been so kind to everyone.
No
so
problem.
Patient.
No.
Thank you very much.
Have a picture of
Of course, yeah. Which one? That one?
Yeah.
Who's it for?
Yeah, that's
Joe. Hey!
Oh, my hero!
Oh, you're mine. Hey!
Brilliant work you're doing.
Thank you.
David,
Oh, it's all yours.
David, we love you. Can we get a selfie?
Go on,
You're
then.
so amazing.
Go on then.
Oh, well
Thank
done.
you.
We love you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey!
Cheers, mate. I've been following you for years. Keep up
Cheers,
the good work.
mate. Cheers. Thank you. Thank you, mate.
But how good does that feel to say that they're not laughing at you now?
No, they're not laughing at me now.
No, they're not.
They're trying to ignore me. The sight of these people in these vast numbers walking through the London streets saying we're not having it anymore is it's so freaking emotional, you know. You know, I've done some things in my life, but you know, this is an incredible day for me to have seen all those years ago, those decades ago, where no one wanted to know and everything you said was crazy, and now you see the world waking up on this scale. So you know, the whole COVID era has been a fascistic nightmare, but it has woken people up to the fact that there are forces running human society that are not the people they see, and we have an opportunity now to turn that, seeing that, into ceasing to cooperate with it. And if the kind of numbers we're starting to see cease to cooperate with the diktats of authority and fascism, then the numbers alone mean it cannot prevail. So this is a fantastic, pivotal day. And a day that gives you enormous encouragement for where we go from here. Hey! Hey! How are you, man? Hi! Am I going to picture you? Yeah, of course. I love this. Thank you. How the police should be. Big fan, my friend. Thank you, mate.
I say wait and see.
The coronavirus pandemic started in China. Oxygen, medical supplies and hospital staff have
One of the 5 vaccines and research.
Stage 1, you create a problem. It could be a manufactured virus. You want a reaction, and you want them to either say, do something, or you want them to accept what the authorities suggest must be done. So one of the agendas is to massively cull the population. They want to reduce the numbers.